Yo, yo, yo. Hey, guys, welcome back to another awesome edition of the Best Practices Show podcast. My name is Kirk Behrendt, and I have one goal. And my goal is to bring you great stuff from great new rock stars, established influencers to make your practice and your life better. And today we are going to do just that. We're going to bring in a kid that I've watched grow into an amazing leader in dentistry. His name is Dr. Tim Herre. And we're going to talk about how you could be different and have your patients beat the door down and do something that brings you joy in your own way. You're going to love this, and you're going to see how powerful it is when you pick a direction and you move confidently in that way. So check it out. We'll see you guys soon. Hey guys, welcome back to the Best Practice Show podcast, where I have one goal here, one jam, to share some information with some pretty cool people in this industry to make your practice and your life better. So I hope you keep showing up. And this is a really cool special episode because I've got a friend of mine in Kansas City, Dr. Tim Herre, and we're going to be talking about how you can be different in dentistry and have people beat the doors down. Now, you're going to have to listen to this because what he's done is absolutely remarkable. And I'm so proud of you because I've watched you, come into the world of dentistry, and your dad was my dentist, still is to a certain degree in Kansas City, Dr. Craig Herre. And if you're listening, it's Herre. These guys are amazing. And you created something completely different, unique, all that kind of stuff. But thanks for being on, brother. I appreciate it.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
All right. So now I want to start here. I always like people to know who they're listening to. So we got a lot of young listeners, a lot of young dental. Who's Dr. Tim Herre? What do you do? Where are you at? All that kind of stuff.
Well, as you said, I'm in Kansas City, right down the street from where your old office used to be. Yep. I'm a third generation dentist. So my grandfather started his practice here in Kansas City in 1953. So we still have patients that have been with us 50, 60 years, which is kind of crazy. But I graduated in 2008 and came in with my dad. And he was, of course, my first mentor. And, as you mentioned, a phenomenal restorative dentist, has always been into, doing things a little bit different in his own mind. And, we'll get into my differences as well on kind of from his, but, he opened my eye when he was going through some occlusion, TMJ training. I was still in school. And they let me just tag along. And of course, I didn't understand any of it, but my eyes were opened. And then, when you see that, especially from the get-go, that doesn't change. And so, already, from the first day of practice, I was kind of learning from him and doing some of the stuff that he was, as far as, full mouth, restorative and TMJ and occlusal. And then eventually, as the years go on, you kind of realize, hey, all these TMJ patients are airway patients, which airway has been the buzzword in dentistry lately. And that just kind of took me down the rabbit hole of, well, what's next?
Right.
Not being satisfied. It's always like, well, what's next? And so you see a common thread between all the adults that have sleep apnea, TMJ, whatever it may be. Just their mouth breaking down. And you realize that, hey, all these things were happening when they were kids. Right. But they were never spotted or, treated or addressed. So, my goal and passion then became, well, let's try to figure out, how can we prevent the kids from being these adults, of our generation, and, what can be done about it? So I've kind of seeked out a lot of good mentors over the years. And it really, for me, has been not as much taking tons of courses, but I've just been lucky to find a bunch of good mentors. Yeah. That have been passionate about the same thing. Like one of my, best mentors, an orthodontist, Dr. Mary Burns. And, she was the first person I ever heard talk about airway over about 15 years ago. Mm-hmm. And that's been, a game changer with that.
Yeah. So go back to, and so one of the things I'm going to brag about you for a second, because one of my favorite things about you is that when you're, what we're talking about here today. So just to get you guys caught up is, and I'll just reiterate this point. So this morning we had our study club and we're talking, and I actually mentioned you in front of everybody else, is differentiation. One of the things that you'll understand in your journey of dentistry, a couple of things. Number one, you got to find your path. Tim, you found your path. Your dad is one of my mentors. He's unbelievable at what he does. And you learn from him, and then you're like, I'm going to chart my own path. The other thing that you're going to understand is if you get out of network, once the training wheels come off, it's not about writing a letter and having people pay full fee and then you're at the Holy Grail. You got to be good at something in order for people to beat the doors down. So, I love how you have continued your journey. You were here not too long ago with a study club with Maggie Graham and a lot of those other people that are on. And then I heard through the grapevine, you guys also went to California and learned from somebody out there too. So you're on this search to learn from everybody. I mean, I'm paraphrasing what I heard.
Oh, I mean, like, as you mentioned earlier, I mean, you're, all the people that you interview, everybody's a CE junkie. So, I mean, there's always more to learn and stuff, I tell the team that every day, we know what we know today, and then tomorrow we do better. And I mean, it's always going to be that way.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
I want you to talk about the steps in your journey. So when it comes to being like, how did you get into this? Now, let me preface this. You're going to be talking about holistic dentistry. And I told you this, 25 years of me being in there, like holistic dentistry was one of those things. If you said it 25 years ago, it had different meanings. It had to do like with the metals and the materials, and it's taken a new shape. And so talk about the steps, what inspired you, where you were headed, what happened as a result of your practice. I mean, that's a lot to throw at you, but take us through the journey. So like
going back to what I said a little bit ago about starting out with kind of the TMJ background, and, the curriculum I went through a group called OBI, is very biologic as far as, hey, if it's healthy, it's beautiful, it's natural, it's what God intended. So, if the joints are in the right position, the bite's going to be balanced and so forth. And so it's starting with good skeletal foundational principles. And then, when you realize, hey, not all your patients are responding to that type of treatment, what's going on, then, I think within dentistry, everybody's within their own bubble in their own practice. And I didn't really realize there was a lot of other stuff out there, or didn't start connecting some of my own dots until kind of like what you're doing with this podcast. I started listening to a bunch of podcasts and hearing all these other people talk about amazing things that they were doing within their own practice or classes they were taking. And my mind was kind of, I'm like, you can do that? Like, I had no idea. Yeah. You kind of get stuck. And, even though my dad was doing great things, he'd been a dentist for 30 years, and you kind of get your own path and you may get stuck a little bit. So, I was still young enough. I'm like, that's so cool. Like, I had no idea you could do that. I wanted to keep going down that path. And so just kept listening and learning. And then I went through a couple courses, and some good, some bad, but, they just kind of kept opening doors to new mentors, new courses, new really friends all around the country within dentistry that are, younger dentists trying to set up practices this way. And then you just keep learning from each other and, trying to figure out, hey, this is what's working for me and so forth. But that's been trying to get outside of my own, ecosystem, right, and get involved with other people has been the biggest thing.
Yeah. So if I were to ask you, what kind of practice do you have? What does a week look like for you? How would you describe your practice and what you've created?
So that's interesting because there are some weeks that I don't pick up a handpiece for restorative, and that's kind of where I'm going. And there are, some weeks where I do a little bit more, but, my dad, I'm lucky that my dad's still working, because it's nice to have him still help with things. Cause he can do a lot of the restorative that he's great at, because we almost have two different practices. He's been 40 years and he has a bunch of patients that have been with him for that amount of time. So he has, a bunch of patients that are, say all, around 60, 70, close to his age, that, there'd be our days look so funny. Cause like I could have a day where I don't see anybody older than like 15 and he doesn't see anybody younger than like 50.
Wow.
So I do tons of like, and the thing that just like things I've noticed with business over the years that I've always kind of thought, like, if you do something for kids or for dogs or for pets, like people will do whatever for their kid or their dog.
Right.
And so it really kind of hit home once I started going down the path of, trying to work on how can I help kids and get more involved in that. And then I just kind of fell into doing a bunch of like tongue tie releases on kids and especially infants, start connecting with tons of different therapists all over Kansas City and from hours away. So, I mean, that's predominantly what a day looks like, is tons of tongue tie releases on infants to kids to adults, and then just a bunch of new patient consults on kids on. It's almost like facilitating, like come in, I'll do the consult and say, okay, you need to see this person, this person, this person, and then really just try to connect the dots for the mom or the family. And, and most of the time the moms are just more like, thank you. I just needed somebody to listen to me and someone to not think I'm crazy, or I just want a validation for, all of the research I've done or the mom groups that I'm in, because the moms that come in, I mean, they, within the traditional medical model or like even dental model, they go all these places and say, I think there's a problem. I think there's a problem. Like, no, everything's fine. They're going to they will outgrow it. And, by and large, that's not usually true.
Right.
And so they just want somebody to almost like be able to just sit and listen to them.
Yeah.
And guide them on their journey. And I tell them all the time, like, my goal is just to try to guide you. Like, here's, especially with the kids or even adults, it's like, this is step 1, this is step 2, this is step 3. It doesn't all have to be done at one time, but let's just kind of start to put the path together and what looks right for you. And, I think my goal for each person is to always give them a choice. And hey, here's your choices. Like there's no, coercion or force with any of that. And I think everybody just wants a choice to make the best decision for themselves or their family.
Yeah. And again, you're a very humble guy, so I'm going to go there and just ask you the questions. Like you chose this very awesome, unique part of dentistry. And some people say, I don't know how you would put the business together. And like, I'm going to lead you with these words, but like once you're passionate about something, that's going to take care of itself. Like you are crazy busy right now doing something you love. So if I'm a young dentist listening and I'm like, I don't know if it's a good idea for me to go in this direction, even though I love it, what would you say?
I think you got to figure out what's right for you, because, I think I've got caught in the trap too. Like you listen to a lot of other people talk about their practice and you're like, I have 10 practices or I'm doing X, Y, and Z. I'm like, but, well, what's right for you? Like, do you want something small, something big? What procedures do you like to do? Who do you want to, what do you want your clients to look like? So, I think it's figuring out who you are first. And you talked about your differentiator that you have your clients go through. So I think it's a lot of, looking inward first and, what do I want for myself and what type of lifestyle do I want? Or, and that's like, I've always heard you say like dentistry is the best profession because you can choose what you want.
Right.
You can choose your hours. You can choose the people that you want to see. So I think starting there, and then that opens the door, because everybody all the time is like, well, I want an airway practice, but what does that truly mean? I mean, I think, the airway being a buzzword can mean a lot of different things to a lot of people. Even holistic can mean a lot of different things to a lot of people. But what does it mean to you, and how do you want to spin it?
Yeah. And again, I'm a geek about this stuff. So go back to those 2 words. So airway, if you've already said, it's one of the most important subjects. But we actually have airway camps now. Like people are divided on what this means. And talk about what holistic means to you. Like describe it from your perspective.
Well, I think we'll start with airway. I think some of that's kind of hard because there's a lot of different opinions on, how to treat it. I mean, it's like TMJ too. I'm like, everybody has their appliance. Everybody has their, way of doing something. Each curriculum may have, their own opinion on that. And people get entrenched in that, like my way is the right way. I'm like, I think it's good to learn a little bit of all of it and see, what you can take from it. And, you may have a tool that works great in your hand. So, stick with that. I don't think it's, necessarily like a good thing to try to get in an argument with people on like, my appliance is better than yours, or I do something different than you do with airway. Like, hopefully we all have the same underlying, end result or goal to get there and stuff. But, the airway for me is more, I don't do a lot of traditional sleep appliances, but more going along the holistic route. How can we try to figure out what's the root cause and how can we go there and fix it? Whether that's me or usually a team of people, that help with that. And, the way you do it with the kids is, well, let's prevent and guide growth versus wait and go backwards with that. But holistic to me is not like, I tell people all the time, like, I'm not going to beat you up on, what products you use or, fluoride, or tell you, you have to, take amalgams out because they're toxic, or root canals, things like that. And, try to educate people so they can make their own decision with all that. But I think it's more looking at the whole person and the whole picture, and, really looking at their overall total health and try to help them connect their dots with that.
Yeah. Go further. Like,
yeah.
Passionately, when you're doing your exam or getting to know, like, what are some of the things that you do, either comprehensive exam or preclinical? Like, what's important to you around this system that you're building? Is there anything unique that you'd share? Or, because I haven't asked you this, some people are like, speak about that. Is there anything unique to your process? You're like, this is really important for us to learn about our patients as we get to know them.
Well, I think number one is, what do they want, and what are their goals? What does the parent want for, their child versus project what we want on them? I think that's probably the biggest thing, is always ask them, like, what do you want? Because then you can tailor what you're talking about to what their needs and goals are, and give them choices based on that. Because it's not always a one size fit all. And so I think, first and foremost is just listening to them and their story. So hopefully, whatever your intake forms are, or however you want to do your consultation, or, however you look at your CBCT scan, or, whatever it may be, then it's tailoring it to each person based off of listening first. I think that's always the most important thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And I also, I love, now you guys got to follow Tim on marketing, because it's pretty creative. Like some of the things you do, I would imagine in your practice, as you pick a direction and you're different and you're, building a patient base, what would you say about somebody on the marketing side of things? Now, and I'll say this, like, there's a certain type of patient now that you're attracting. Like, how important is that, your messaging, and then how you ask for referrals? How have you built this?
To be honest, I don't do a lot of external marketing, but it kind of just caught like wildfire because of, I think when you find, like you've alluded to, the path that you want to take, and you're passionate about it, that it may take time, but things kind of fall into place if you're just always trying to figure things out. Because this hasn't been an overnight thing. It's like, okay, we're going to try this software, we're going to talk about it this way, or we're going to do this thing within the office, and maybe it works, maybe it doesn't, and then tinker with it and move on to the next thing with that and stuff. And so, I think it's always trying to, keep learning and, moving forward with some of that. But I think the biggest thing that I did was when I started getting into all of this stuff, that especially it was when I got in with the kids, that's when it went crazy. Because then the moms talk, the mom groups, right, that almost is the marketing, the self-marketing you need, but there's very, very few people in this whole area that do the similar things that I do as far as procedure based, or with babies or tongue tie and stuff. So people come from all over just because it's such a unique niche. Yeah. And that's been the biggest thing, is like, I found a procedure, or I found something that I enjoy that no one else does. So when all the other people in town, or therapists and moms, hear about it, that they have to come see you. Yeah. But then they know that, when you come in, you're doing it for the right I think that's the biggest thing. You're doing it for the right reasons as well. And it's not just, hey, airway is the buzzword, it's going to make me a lot of money. Right. Like, you find something that you enjoy and take it. And then the other biggest thing was, when I rebranded to include like holistic in my name, that brought in a whole other group of people. Really? They come in because they want something different, but they're more opening to listening to the message that you have. Right. And they're more open to you sitting down and educating them, and your team educating them on, hey, this is what I see, versus it's broken, fix it. Yeah. They'll be more proactive with their care and more receptive to, hey, I'm not in pain, but I see these things. Let's make a long-term game plan, to help get me on track. And then, and when I think it's something too, that part of it has helped in a certain way, to where, as a non-specialist, I think dentists are always afraid to refer to another dentist, because you're going to steal my patient, or everybody's very fearful. And there's so much to go around, but, I don't get a lot of referrals from actual like general dentists, but maybe specialists or all these other therapists. So, the holistic dental side drives in families like crazy. And then those moms come in and, maybe they're homeschool families or, whatnot, but, a lot of them are large families and they will do whatever, for their 3, 4, 5, 10 kids.
Yeah.
And I mean, and that's really been the biggest thing for me, is being able to provide the outlet for these families that are looking for somebody to listen to them, and that difference with that.
Yeah. Now go back to the team thing. You mentioned team is, educating and talking to them. You obviously are passionate on this path. You decide to go on, and, you're the new kid coming in. And so take us on the journey of how you, not only built your internal team, but your external team of, myofunctional therapists, all that kind of stuff. Anything you would share on that side?
Well, I to be honest, I think it would have been easier to start my own practice. Like once I got this going, I think it would have been easier to start my own, like to have something where you're getting everybody on board with the same message from the start versus trying to retrofit an older process and completely change the mindset. And so I think it took a little bit longer to get everybody on board because it was such a different way about talking about things or doing things or protocols. And especially my dad's been great because he's just like, hey, I was the young dentist once working with my dad, so you can do what you want to do. But then it's trying to get him to get out of his own path and stuff too, But so that's been a challenge. It's just, it's always every day. It's always reminding everybody, always talking to everybody and educating them, and and having just conversations with your team all the time, and asking them questions. And how can I feel like every day you come in and you're just always coaching, always guiding. And it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work.
Yeah.
And it hasn't been an easy process at all, but it's very, it's fun because you're doing what you're talking about, what you love.
Yeah. And you can see that all the time with you.
Yeah.
I know you love the education, the research, and where are we on the map with this airway thing? This is not going away. Where do you see this going in the next, it's anyone's guess, but the next 5-10 years, where do you think we're at?
I think as far as looking at dental offices individually, I think that's the cool thing, is that the research may take us in a lot of different directions, but I think some things will change, is that you will see more and more people probably starting to treat, especially orthodontists, hopefully, younger kids. And I think that if they don't, a lot of people will be left behind, because that's what the moms and the public are starting to learn. And there's a lot more information out there about that. But then I also think you can take any of the education and research and make it what you want. If you are happy doing what you want to do and you just want to be, airway aware and say, hey, I see this going on, but you should go see this person because I don't do any of that stuff. Totally fine. If you want to do traditional sleep appliances, hey, you're helping somebody. If you want to do the orthodontic side of it, or, get to the root cause and things, that I think the research will continue to open up pathways for however you want to look. And I don't think there's going to be a right or wrong way with that, just because there's going to be different appliances to handle the same thing, if that makes sense. It
makes perfect sense.
There's a lot of different ways, but I think it will be driven down to more and more handling it more from the start, handling it with kids, because they're so easy to treat. It's much harder to backtrack on, adults.
Right. The cool thing about this industry, and you and I have talked a lot, I do think this is the greatest industry ever. Like, you can create an amazing practice and you can serve a lot of people. And 25 years of doing this, I can't remember two things coming on the scene more powerful than the word airway and the systemic link, the overall. And I feel like dentists are going to be busier than ever. Right now they estimate it's a $350 billion industry. It's going to be $700 billion by 2030, the aging population. I think there's a lot of opportunity for people to serve the public the way that they want to, and do it their own way. And that's why I just love chronicling your journey. This is our first podcast. We're going to have you come back and share more. But what are some other insights, like as you started to go down this path, that you would share if I'm a young listener? What would you say?
It's that it doesn't happen overnight.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a lot of work, but I mean, and there's a lot of great mentors out there. I mean, you've had tons of them on your podcast that have been, talking about airway for a long time, but I mean, it doesn't have to be just, airway and stuff. I mean, you could be doing things for, other reasons within, growth and development on kids. And, I mean, that hopefully the airway is the end result, but, it's just providing an outlet for, other people to, come in, like you mentioned earlier, just being a differentiator. And that can look like a lot of things. But, but to me, I just hope, like, 'cause I hear away a lot that things stem for, the right reasons, like you're doing it for the right reasons to,
Right.
get into it to help people versus it's just another, moneymaker for my practice and, where you're taking it. And I think you see that a lot maybe with, certain education and stuff too. So I've got the next best thing, and you really try to figure out, how things work and, where you're at and stuff. I mean, that's, and how much of it do you want? And I think also too, is how much of it do you want to handle? Because I mean, it can be very complex, and you can, I've learned the hard way with a lot of this stuff that, it's a lot of companies sell things, I think, to general dentists as this is an airway appliance or this is an expansion appliance. And I think there's a lot of smoke and mirrors behind some things without naming some names, but I've tried things and you learn the hard way on, okay, well, that doesn't work on this type of patient or this person or like, and so, I think that's the hard part too, is trying to sift through some of that.
Yeah. I love it. So what's next for you?
It's challenging. That part's challenging.
Yeah. I always know you're working on something. What are you working on?
For me, a couple of things. I mean, just more within, my practice to begin with is that, I've just hired some new team members to help handle new patient flow and continue to develop your systems and all the stuff that you preach and love. So it's trying to fine tune that to fit the growth, that we're having now and, and just changing the continued education kind of within the team and the practice. But I think the biggest thing is that, my dad will be around, who knows how long, but I mean, he's more than welcome to stay however long he wants because we need the help. But trying to figure out how to get in a like-minded associate or two in to, help handle that side of the practice where I can kind of run with these things that I want to and, be able to, handle the patient flow, but then our longstanding patients too, to continue to service them. So that's number one. And like you mentioned, being at your office a while ago, trying to work with a group of, other, younger dentists that are doing very similar things with, kids and airway and their practices on, trying to provide an outlet for other general dentists to answer a lot of the questions that you've asked today. How do I make this work? Yeah. Not as much heavy clinical because there's a lot of different ways, but more, this is what I've tried. These are some failures, don't do this, like, do this, and kind of what your study clubs and all the masterminds are about. Get together with a bunch of other, seek out your mentors and, friends and colleagues that are, doing things similar and, lean on them and, don't be afraid to share information. Yeah. And again, you're very humble. I'm going to expose some of your secrets. So when you called me or you're texting me and you're like, I'm in town, I'm like, where are you? And you're like, oh, I'm actually in Maggie's practice today. And then the study club was meeting tomorrow. So you were like seeing it in action before you guys were going to talk about it. And that's powerful. Like, when I was young, when I was in my 20s, and I'm going to encourage you guys to do this. If you're a young dentist, that's like some of the best learning ever, is I would call a dentist or just show up and go, hey, so-and-so sent me, or Pete Dawson would say, go see this guy. And of course, when you knock on the door and you say, Pete sent me, they were like, come on in. And most any dentist who's a good person, they're like, check it. I'll show you everything. You and I have a mutual friend, Bob Margis. He has an open door policy. Anyone in the country can come watch him work for a day. Like, he's a master. You know how many people taking him up on that? Like 2. Yeah. It's free. I think that is powerful because, like I mentioned earlier, the podcast became an outlet like that for me. Like, you can step into other people's practices without really being there, but you can hear a lot of stuff. But I think that is great when you find some like-minded individuals that, go spend a day with them, and I've got so many different like text threads or things with, other, friends or dentists, like always sharing. Thankfully, technology makes it easy now, like sharing a scan or sharing a case and sharing, hey, what would you do here? and stuff. And you learn a lot from just other people's opinions and ideas as well. Like, don't think it all has to be on you and in your head.
100%.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Dude, I'm so proud of you. I love watching your journey. I love watching what you're doing. And I can't wait to see what you do next. But any last thoughts you have when you talk about being different and having people show up your practice, bang the doors down?
Not as much that we have, I think that I've touched on a lot of those things is find, because it is, you've always preached, dentistry, it's great, but it's not easy. No. You go home and it never leaves you. You can't go on vacation and stop thinking about it a lot. So, these things that, you're passionate and that you get into and stuff, when you're doing it for the right reasons and stuff, then it doesn't make it as time consuming, always thinking about it and always tinkering with it and stuff. And so I think that's the biggest thing is, what your values, what your goals are, what's in it for you, and then run with that. Because otherwise I think it's like everybody always says with any job, if you don't enjoy it, it's going to be a challenge. So
amen.
Love it.
Amen.
Yeah.
Now, if I'm listening, I want to just check out what you're doing. Tell us how can I follow you, like either on social media or your website? Like, how do I find out more about what you're doing?
Well, I've got nothing personal necessarily, like courses and things to promote, but, just love sharing information. And, if anybody wants to connect and, have a conversation on the side or, email and stuff, then he knows kind of what it leads to. But, I'm on Instagram at Holistic Dental KC, or, it's dr.tim@holisticdentalkc.com.
Awesome.
At gmail.com, sorry, for email, and then holisticdentalkc.com.
Awesome.
That's it. So more than happy to share and, connect.
Awesome, man. Thank you so much for being on. So I really appreciate it. And so check that out, you guys. If you didn't take notes today, don't worry. If you're listening to Google, iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, flip up. We're taking notes for you. So flip up to the notes. You're going to see all the things that Tim mentioned. You'll actually see his website. You can click on it, check it out, and see more of it. So stick around. We'll say goodbye to everybody else, Tim. But thank you guys for listening to the Best Practices Show. Hey, if you enjoyed it today, just do us a favor, hit the share button, share it with your friends. You guys, I love the suggestions you guys are sending. I'm doing my best to line them up. You'll see a lot of that here in the coming weeks. But until we see you guys next time, or you hear from us next time, keep watching the Best Practices Show. You guys enjoy your day.